Hey folks, and welcome back to Glenn and Adrian's Rock Talk. That's Adrian.
And that's Glenn.
And today we return to our Rush journey with the song Kid Gloves from Grace Under Pressure. For once I actually had the album right here and ready to look at. This is an album, I have a tortured history with this album. Well, it's not that tortured, but when I got it, I wasn't that impressed. I eventually sold it because I was a young, broke person that loved music and had to keep buying records, and so had to trade them in once in a while. Then I bought it again, maybe, 3-4 years ago. I had to have it again. And I love this record, but I don't listen to it often enough. And so when I saw on a few lists that Kid Gloves was considered kind of a hidden gem of a track for Rush, I thought, I'd really like to check that out. We should bring it to the channel. Well, come to find out, they only played it a few times, probably on the Grace Under Pressure tour. The issue there is that there was no video captured that I am aware of, at least not at the moment. There's not any available that I am aware of. So instead, we're going to probably, while watching, we'll look at the lyrics. But I still wanted to check it out. That could very well be why it's underrated, is there's no way to look at it, and this is a very visual age that we live in. So, Adrian, do you remember this song at all?
Can't recall it right off the bat, but I must have heard it because it's on Grace Under Pressure. I probably listened to it a couple of times or something. I sort of had the same attitude you did in the beginning with the record, and I only really listened to the 3 songs that I heard on the radio from that record: Distant Early Warning, The Body Electric, and Between the Wheels, or Beneath the Wheels.
Right, Between the Wheels. Yeah. Kid Gloves is side 2, right after The Body Electric. So, you would have been lifting the needle.
I bet I'll remember it when you play it.
Yeah, I'm really curious to hear it again. So let's go ahead. We'll check it out. We'll talk about it afterwards.
All righty.
So
it's funny, when you hear about the term kid gloves, that usually means, softer gloves. Something that's like the other opposite of an iron fist, like you're kind of toning down the punishment that you're doling out. And this song, it almost sounds like it's being used in the contradictory way, almost like it's going to be harder. But then I notice also that the song has a counterpoint kind of thing going on here, where it starts with, you learn the lesson that it's cool to be so tough, and then by the end, then you learn the lesson that it's tough to be so cool,
I noticed that.
Yeah, and by the way, I know on the record, the actual last line after "so cool," remember he says "so cruel." Changes it to "cruel" it's not on this sheet either, but it's a couple extra.
Okay.
So, yeah, and you can hear it in there. I was kind of listening for it because I remember the song again. I've heard this quite a number of times, but never really listened to it carefully. So this is interesting.
Yeah. The guitar in the beginning sounded familiar. That's probably what I heard before I lifted the needle up after listening to the Body Electric.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably exactly true. It's funny. Alex's solo in the middle there during the instrumental portion, it sounded almost like at one point there was a little Eddie Van Halen homage or something going on in there. At this point, it's 1984. I think it's early 84 when they're recording this album. And by this time, David Lee Roth, that whole era of the band, has put out its 6 albums. Their 1984 album had just come out at the very top of the year. I think it was actually December 31st, 1983.
It was. I remember that.
So here we are, a few months later, and they're recording this album. I couldn't help but think that's got to be some kind of a tip of the hat or something to Eddie. And I also thought, well, maybe... it says, then you learn the lessons, handle with kid love. It's almost like, is there an invisible if in here? And is it an if then? Like, if you handle things with kid gloves, then you learn the lessons taught in school won't be enough. Like maybe you're ill-prepared for the world. You could probably spend an hour on these lyrics and just go through and figure out what they all could possibly mean and what he meant to put it together in this particular way. He's basically looking at both sides now, if you know what I mean. He's looking at approaching something maybe timidly, doesn't work in the long run, doesn't prepare you properly. I think it's implying that you have to do things the hard way sometimes. Kids are new to some things, so they don't know the outcome. Whatever new thing they're trying, most likely they make mistakes the first time or even the second, third, or 100th time, but finally they learn the lessons. I would agree with that. And then I believe that this song is about people who can't grow up and mature. Their lack of responsibility, outlook on life and habits, like being a tough guy, the class clown, or drama queen from their adolescence, stay with them through adulthood. I think we can all relate to that idea.
We've seen plenty of people that could serve as an example for that.
That's right. All about stages of maturity, this person says, about learning to avoid conflict by being careful about how we treat others and their beliefs. It says, I'm fond of the clever reversal that cool to be so tough and then tough to be so cruel. Everybody can identify with that progression of understanding, but it takes a poet like Neil to articulate it so beautifully. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I concur with that. Okay, folks, well, why don't you let us know what you think of that song? And if you have others you want to suggest to us, please go ahead and leave those below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you enjoyed our presentation, please subscribe. All right, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one. All right, take care, folks.
See you all later.